So, Mr. Thespio, tell me what's on your mind.
Well, first of all, I really do want to thank you for allowing me the time to come and speak with you, Doc. Even if my first impressions out in the Badlands were a bit... mixed. Anyway, I've heard a lot of great things come from this office, and I was really hoping I could speak with you about something that's been kinda putting me in a bind as of late.
And what might that be?
Well, you see, for as long as I can remember, I've always wanted to be an entertainer, be it as an actor, singer, dancer, what have you. And I've had a bit of success in some of those fields ever since I was little. But one thing I'm not so certain about, and this might sound crazy, is dealing with an overabundance of positive reception. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm perfectly fine with compliments, and I never want to come off as ungrateful in any way. But as I got older, I got a bit more in tune with my inner critic, if you will. There have been times when I look at what I've done in the past and I just can't help but either cringe or shake my head in embarrassment. I'll be thinking to myself, why do people still enjoy this amateur attempt at entertainment when I know so much more about the craft now than I did back then?
I see. May I ask whether something you thoroughly enjoyed years ago has ever made you step back and question why you thought it was so great to begin with?
I suppose I can. I guess it all started a couple of years ago before MLP became a thing and I was part of a completely different online community. I believe it was around 2007 when I created my first ever YouTube channel that I've now since abandoned around 2012-2013. Now, this was around the time YouTube was still a relatively brand new website, and I wanted to try my hand at doing something creative, specifically filmmaking. Back then, I had no idea how to be like the professionals, but I didn't want to be a copycat, as it were. I just wanted to do my own thing and see where it goes. However, I also didn't have the proper equipment when I first started. All I had was my old tape camera, a digital handheld audio recorder, and Windows Movie Maker. I made a few little videos with the thought of making an ongoing series, and as time passed, I discovered I actually did have a decent mic laying around the house somewhere, but I had no intention of redoing the videos I already put up that used the lesser quality equipment. Even so, people were still drawn to these videos and commented on them saying, and I quote, "OMG, this is the greatest thing ever, I love it!" Or, "This is the best thing I've ever seen on the internet!" etc., etc. I got no constructive criticism of any kind. Then as the years passed, I gained sort of a following, and then around 2009-2010, I was declared one of the big names in the fandom I was in, with people continuously flocking to my channel for more videos. But it was also through that time I learned how to create with better quality hardware and not sound so whispery in my audio recordings. Basically, I critiqued myself and learned how to improve all on my own. Then when I entered college, ponies became a thing, and it was then when I got sort of a wake-up call. Nowadays, I look at the first couple of videos I ever made, and I thoroughly regret ever releasing them in the state they were. I mean, there were so many easily fixable things I never even bothered to look into. Now, it was around 2012 when I left that old fandom and became a brony, and with that I gained an entirely different perspective on my content. But still to this day, I'm getting subs on my old channel and people are still commenting on my oldest works, calling them fantastic or the greatest thing they ever seen. And I just can't help but ask why? Does my audience just have no standards? I mean, even today, if I release something I feel I did half-heartedly or didn't put my all into, I get those same types of comments. I honestly don't know if it's my humbleness taking over me or something else entirely.
Interesting. I must admit I haven't had that kind of experience as of yet. I've been overwhelmed by positive feedback, and it's rather difficult to look back at my earliest works without cringing, but I've still held on to everything I've made despite their flaws. I honestly don't know how I'd react if I somehow lost interest in the work and walked away entirely. I've spent the last few years dedicating my free time towards these videos, and, at least for now, I have a hard time thinking about what purpose my life would have without them. Yet at the same time, I suppose I can understand why people would look back at my earliest works and still find worthwhile elements. I was rather proud of my very first video because it was something I'd never done before. Of course, I was afraid of what others would think, but at the very least I could say that I tried. And perhaps those who come across those works for the first time can really appreciate seeing something new that we can no longer see ourselves. After all, we tend to gravitate towards new experiences over time because we crave variety. I, for one, can appreciate all that encouragement, though. It's still rather difficult for me to accept what I could be capable of. I actually brushed aside all the encouragement from my family and friends over the decades about doing something with my voice simply because I had a hard time believing I could ever draw in an audience. You and I may have something in common here, Thespio. Not really understanding why others see more than we can really comprehend. But if I could use a bit of an example from an old anime series, Fruits Basket, it's comparable to if everyone had a precious jewel on their backs. You're always able to see the beauty and talents of others, but are unable to see that much in yourself. That's part of the reason why we tend to be our own worst critics after all. Does that make sense to you, Thespio?
Yeah, I think it does. I admit, there have been times where my own inner critic prevents me from seeing the diamond in the rough with my creativity. And, I will say this much. There have been projects I've done that I'm still iffy on, but there's some bits and pieces I do appreciate about it, so I guess that's one thing. But I also think there's a similar side to how I feel, but in a completely different way that also makes me question things. And it's mostly at my job. I've been told multiple times by my boss that I'm, quote-unquote, the best employee that he's ever had. But the thing is, I don't really feel I did that much to deserve that kind of praise. I'm just doing my job. Nothing more, nothing less. And I think that can transition to my content creation as well. I'll be honest, I just get really uncomfortable when I'm placed on a high pedestal when I don't feel the need to be on one. That's why one of my personal favorite MLP episodes is Ghostbusters. Twilight knows that there are other unicorns out there more magically gifted and talented than she is, and she accepts that. I know there are people out there who are more experienced than I am, and I have no problem with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being talented, but it shouldn't be a competition of who's better than the rest, be it either online or in real life. And trust me, the last thing I want to be perceived as is an egotistical show-off like Trixie. And even if I do come off as such, it's just for laughs. If someone out there calls me, quote-unquote, the best, be it either my boss or a fan of mine, I just feel like I'm being given a false sense of entitlement. Like they expect me to be the best. And that honestly puts a lot of pressure on me, and it really stresses me out. I mean, I do appreciate the compliments and the occasional criticism, which I always take to heart. And like I said before, I don't ever want to come across as ungrateful, but I'm not a holier-than-thou entity, either creatively or practically, nor am I trying to be. I just do what I do because either I enjoy it and it's how I express myself, or it just needs to be done. Would I like to shoot for the stars? Yeah, sure. But I want to do so on my own terms, through hard work, chivalry, and the need to always seek improvement. And I'm pretty sure a ton of fellow creators go through this experience as well.
A worthy sentiment to be sure, though at the same time I hope you won't be dismissing any of those positive comments, as hard to believe as some of them may be. On rare occasion you could run across someone who wants something or even someone to believe in, who they can look up to and feel inspired to emulate in their own life. I suppose if you want to feel a bit more acceptance for that which others praise you for, while also holding on to your humility, perhaps you can spend a bit more time teaching your craft, uplifting others and believing in them the way they believe in you. At least that way, you're brushing aside some of your worries and can achieve a more genuine sense of purpose when challenging your talents. I suspect that just might help you feel better about your accomplishments in the long run, especially if you can help someone else achieve more than you ever could yourself. What say you, Thespio?
Wow. You know, I never thought about it like that. And, in a way, you're right. I will say that over time and through this big transition between fandoms, I have gained a couple of friends that stick by me to this day, and I've always enjoyed helping them with their projects and giving my input to make them better. And it was through that which I gained more confidence in myself and what I do and made me want to reach out to other people. That's why I relate so much to my two favorite ponies, Twilight and Rarity. Rarity always uses her creativity not just to express herself, but to make others happy and inspired. And that shift in creative perspective has really helped me in the long run, not just gaining new followers, but new friends and experiences that I wouldn't trade for anything else. And as a result, I guess I helped spread my newfound knowledge of my craft to others like Twilight did in Twilight Time. In a way, becoming a brony not only opened my eyes on how to appreciate my friendships more, but how to express my creativity in a more healthy manner if I want to make it a future career. I guess the fact that there are those that come to me for something to believe in just escaped me. Heck, it reminds me of something that happened to me at a con I staffed at a few months ago. I got approached by these kids that recognized me for my voice work and were just squealing with delight at how I not only entertained them, but inspired them to pursue acting as well. It was the most adorable thing that ever happened to me that weekend. And it made me realize, yeah, this is the reason I do what I do. And even though I don't consider myself a teacher in any sense, heck, I outright suck at it, I guess it is kind of a nice thing to know I can still teach and inspire others indirectly at least, even if I don't see it that way.
Glad to hear it, Thespio. I hope that will help you feel a bit differently about your interactions in the future. Shall we continue on this next week?
Yes. Yes, we shall. Thank you so much for your time, Doc. It really means a lot. See you then.
Take care, Thespio. It's good to be helping.